seeing the proof of God in the world and in science and math and history is something that I'm always interested in. And I think a lot of other people, whether you're spiritual or not, are interested in, because I kind of want to always go back to the first episode of Proof of God. We always have to look at what is it we actually know. What is real? Like, I know I'm filming this video. I know that that this camera that I'm looking at right now is real. I know that there's places like Australia. I've never been there, but I know it's real. And I know that things in the past in history are real. I didn't have to be alive. I believe they happen. It's so incredibly documented. But the further back you go, the less documented it becomes. And there's a point where you get to about 3,000 years ago where there's just not a lot of information other than pieces of stone tablets and some structures that have been dug up out of the earth and some pots and things like that, some tools. And when you get to about 4,000 years ago, we get to kind of the ancient Egyptians. And, so we can see their pyramids that we built. There's proof of that. But after that, there's just not a lot that is known. You cannot go back more than 4,500 years and know for sure anything at all. About all you can know about 4,000 years ago is some people built some pyramids, and then you can generally tell a little bit about their art and their culture and that kind of thing. That is about it. But beyond 4,500 years, there is nothing known to be true. Everything is just a lot of speculation. There's a lot of hypothesis being thrown out. And there's a lot of hypotheses that are being put into the theory category that I don't personally think should be there. And then there's a lot of theories that people talk about as if they're laws. Like, laws are laws. Like 2 + 2 is always 4. If I drop a rock, it's going to hit the ground. Gravity is a law. But we're talking about things in the world that have to do with things beyond 4,000 years ago, things that people will say, well, hundreds of millions of years ago, here's how things were. And it's just, as a scientist, that's hard to grab a hold of, to think, we don't even know what was going on 4,500 years ago. How in the world could you possibly look somebody in the eye and say with scientific certainty, here's how things were 200 million years ago? It's just ridiculous, in my opinion. It's easier to walk down the path of creation, because at least there you can see some things that make sense. Now, that's not what this debate is. What I'm trying to share through these videos is, as a scientist, I found God. It was trying to see, well, wait a second, you can't break the rules of science. You can't call hypotheses theories, and you can't call theories laws. It breaks the rules of science. And when people are trying to think of some new idea, you can't shut them out. And I've said this a million times. 1,000 years ago, some of the ideas I might have had I might have been burned at the stake for it. Today, I'd be fired from the university. Not a lot has changed, only the consequences have become less severe. So we shut out other ideas and we still call it science. I mean, science is literally the field of discovery. So it was as a scientist that I found these things. And the one we're talking about today I think is incredibly fascinating, which is essentially regarding the waters of Noah's flood. Where did they come from? Where did they go? For the longest time, scientists have said, here's exactly how much water is on the earth. And then it was well known and well documented that water actually came from comets that over millions of years would strike the earth, and they just had some water crystals on it, and eventually that would crystallize, over hundreds of million years, formed our oceans. However, recently, what we have discovered is that there's crystallized aqueous ringwoodite underneath the earth. Now, this is hydrous ringwoodite, so it's crystallized water underneath the earth. About 7 years ago, there was an underwater ocean of this stuff discovered under Brazil. Recently, it's believed it's under the entire surface of the earth. And there's so much of that water that now it's believed that the water on the earth did not come from comets, that it actually gushed up from below the earth. As a matter of fact, it's quoted in New Scientist, BBC. The water is hidden inside a blue rock called ringwoodite that lies 700 kilometers underground in the mantle, the layer of the hot rock between the Earth's surface and its core. The huge size of the reservoir throws new light on the origin of Earth's water. Some geologists think water arrived in comets as they struck the planet. But the new discovery supports an alternative idea that the oceans gradually oozed out of the interior of the early Earth. It's good evidence the Earth's water came from within. And many of these articles go on to speculate that if all of this crystallized aqueous ringwoodite oozed up to the surface, that it would cover the entire planet, that even the tallest peaks of the tallest mountains would be under water. Now, that's interesting because we've known that for about 7 years now. We've known this discovery for maybe 9 at the most. Yet, written in Genesis, the first book of the Bible, which was written by Moses around 3,000 to 4,000 years ago, it is written in chapter 7, starting in verse 11. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month, the 17th day of the month, on that day all the fountains of the great deep were broken up, so the water came from below. And the windows of heaven were opened, and the rain was on the earth 40 days and 40 nights. Now, I want to say up until this point of Genesis, it hadn't really rained. There was a mist in the earth, but there was not really a rain until the water started gushing up from the earth, when the fountains of the great deep were broken up. We'll keep going. On the very same day, Noah and Noah's sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and Noah's wife, and the 3 wives of his sons with them entered the ark. They and every beast after its kind, all cattle after their kind, every creeping thing that creeps on the earth after its kind, and every bird after its kind, every bird of every sort. And they went into the ark to Noah 2 by 2 of all flesh, which is the breath of life. So those that entered, male and female of all flesh, went in as God had commanded him, and the Lord shut him in. Now the flood was on the earth 40 days, and the waters increased and lifted up the ark, and it rose high above the earth. The waters prevailed and greatly increased on the earth, and the ark moved about on the surface of the waters. And the waters prevailed exceedingly on the earth, and all the high hills under the whole heaven were covered. The water prevailed 15 cubits upward, and the mountains were covered. Yet we're just now discovering it. That's always kind of I love discoveries like this, because when people ask, well, where'd the water come from? Where'd the water go? I mean, we're literally seeing it, and leading geologists are telling us that this water, that our surface water that we now currently have, oozed up from below the earth, just like Moses told us. Again, it kind of goes down to, I'm not saying, everything because again, I started this with, I don't know anything beyond 4,500 years, nor do you, nor does any scientist out there. What I'm saying is you can't say 200 million years ago anything. And then whenever you see what God shares with us, that, hey, here's how it all went down, but yet you can see evidence of that on the earth as a scientist, it just helps you see the proof of God. So stay with us. We're going to keep on rolling through. I think we got about 10 more episodes of this to keep going. But today, hey, where'd the water go? Where'd it come from? Hydrous wormwoodite, deep within the core of the earth. And there's so much of it there that if it oozed up out of the ground, it'd cover the entire planet. Love to hear your thoughts on that. Put in the comments below. If you like this video, click like and subscribe. If you feel called to support this channel through Patreon, that link is also below. But the most important part of this channel is we take prayer requests, so never hesitate to send that in. Thank you for watching this episode of God, Family, and Guns. And as always, love God, love your family, and love guns.